Okay.
You ready? Okay.
Yep.
Call to order the Tuesday, July 8th, 2014 meeting of the Tilton Planning Board to order. And our first case is case number 14-01. It's a continuation for a site plan review. Proposed to remove existing building and construct a retail office building at 304 Laconia Road in the Resort Commercial District. R20/27. The application form in front of you. Before we get this, so this is a continuation, and I believe we received a revised site plan review. So if you would like to go forward.
Steve Smith of Stephen Smith and Associates. I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Joe Sterner. We're here on tax lot R20-27, 304 Laconia Road, Hampshire Route 3. It's in the resort commercial zone. It's 0.87 acres of land area with 200 feet of frontage, 205 feet of frontage on the Laconia Road, US Route 3. It's in the overlay zones, both groundwater protection zone and the wetlands buffer zone. Both of them require conditional use permits, which I filed with my original application for site plan review. I'll back up a little bit. I gave you a little bit of history the last time I was here, and I first of all like to thank you for giving me the extensions I needed in order to coordinate this thing with my client and come up with some alternative layouts to answer or address the Conservation Commission's concern, mainly the building that we were going to be impacting the wetland buffer with. And it took some time to coordinate that with my client. But originally, this site came before the planning board and then to the ZBA for a special exception to build a 5,000 square foot, or to build a retail facility not to exceed 5,000 square feet. You can go up to 3,000 in this zone without the special exception. You needed a special exception to go to 5,000. My client bought the property. The people who went to the, came to the planning board for pre-application and then to the zoning board for the special exception never took it any further. My client bought the property, gave me a call and said, I bought a piece of property, it's been approved for 5,000 square foot building, they won't give me a building permit. I said, well, let me do a little bit of research, I'll check it out. And so sure enough, I reviewed the file. It had only gone as far as the ZBA, it didn't have any planning board review or approval. So I informed him that he didn't have an approval to build a building, all he had was a special exception to possibly build something upwards to 5,000 square feet of retail space. I came to the board back in 2014, February 28th was when I was before the board, and I submitted a plan with...
January.
I filed it on January. I think they came before the board in February, didn't I?
January minutes.
Okay. January, got the wrong date. Anyways, we came in here with a building that was basically had 3,400 square feet of retail facility with 1,200, a little over 1,200 square feet of storage. Above it, on the second floor, with parking, drainage, and associated utilities. Conservation Commission, I came and reviewed it with the board. I didn't know the Conservation Commission had reviewed it. They had concerns. They didn't like our building in the buffer. You have a plan showing the building backed up into this wetland area up in here, impacting that buffer. They wanted a drainage study to address the 100-year storm event. They wanted a maintenance plan for the detention pond. They wanted the 2 existing wells on the site to be capped appropriately, and the old concrete tank that's out here to be removed appropriately. Our biggest concern was dealing, obviously, with the building in the buffer and putting that size building on the property. The plan I have up here right now is the existing conditions plan. It's the same existing conditions plan I showed you at the first meeting, and this is Route 3, Laconia Road. There's an existing building right close to the road, if any of you are familiar with the site. There's a driveway that comes up in Ys like this. We believe the leach field is located in this area here. And through our preparing of the existing conditions plan and getting a wetland soil scientist involved, we determined there was several areas of wetland on the property. The plan that went before the ZBA for the special exception was a pretty basic plan, outlining the property, a building way up back, parking in the front, storm drainage over here, leach field over here, and showed no wetlands at all. So, the ZBA really didn't have an appropriate plan to make a determination that they did. I think they would have been better off with the appropriate information. We got involved, did the existing conditions plan, discovered that we had the wetlands in these areas here. The red are the wetland buffers that are required from the town. Hence, this would be the only building area that you have for the site. I do have the old plan if you want to look at it, but I went back to the client, discussed it with him on many occasions, convincing him that, we're trying to convince him that we weren't going to put that big building on this site. We had to make the building smaller. We had to get it out of the wetland buffer in the back there, sufficient enough so that we wouldn't impact those wetlands. We finally came to terms with the building. We had done a redesign of the site. Although it's not a major redesign, we just shrunk everything down. We now have a building on the site that is, the total building footprint is 2,800 square feet. The retail space is 2,174 square feet, which would allow either one or two units within the structure. Both of them being roughly 1,100 square feet each. If they had two retail businesses in there, one retail business would be 2,174 square feet with the storage again in the upper section. And that allowed us to pull the building away from this red line is the buffer, the green represents the wetland. That allowed us to pull the building away from the wetland, get it out of the buffer, be able to build the building, do grading around the building, and still stay completely out of the buffer itself and not impact that buffer or the wetland. That gets the building, in this corner, the building is about 10 feet from the buffer and about 15 feet from the buffer itself over on that side. We went back and did the 100-year storm event for the pond, had to make just a minor tweak in the pond or the detention area over here to adequately support 100-year storm. We've actually made improvements along Laconia Road. There is a pipe, if you look at the existing condition plan, there is a catch basin and a pipe here. The pipe was too small, old, deteriorated. So we have designed a new entrance into the site with catch basins on both sides and proposing to redo the pipe within the right-of-way. We filed a driveway permit with New Hampshire DOT. We have actually received the driveway permit for the site. I will tell you that, and we had this discussion early on when I came in a conceptual manner. Once the building is built and someone wants to occupy it, they'll have to go get an upgraded driveway permit for the types of uses that come into the building. We had a discussion about concerns about building a building, not knowing what the uses are going to be. How do you relate the parking? You get a restaurant, needs much more parking. You get straight retail, doesn't need as much parking. You get an office facility, may not need the same amount of parking. I suggested that the board might consider approving a site plan conditioned on them requiring them to come back and get use approvals for the units, as we do in many communities. We do it in Laconia, we do it in Guilford. We get an approval if someone's building a building, they don't have a tenant yet. It's approved for uses within the zone, but they have to come back in and specifically get those uses approved to make sure that they don't have something in there that would impact or not fit on the site and not accommodate based on the parking and the arrangements that's on the site. This allows one parking space for basically every 150 square feet of retail spaces in the building, which is a fairly standard parking standard. We're providing for a dumpster pad over in this corner, which would be screened, so it won't be seen from the road itself. We have shown a septic system on the site. We have the leach field down in this corner and our tanks, series of tanks in this area here. We have sized it based on commercial use. We have not submitted it to the New Hampshire DES because it will meet the New Hampshire DES standards, but you have other standards and it won't meet the town standards for setbacks from wetlands. Matter of fact, you can't put a leach field on this site and meet the town standards. And I didn't want to go to the extent of designing a septic system without knowing what the uses are and whether or not we have an approved site plan, ability to approve site plan. So anything this board would decide would be subject to getting the septic approved. And I'm going to need some input from the town on how to proceed with that in terms of who do I go to in order to get that waiver for that setback, which can't be met on the property for any type of use. So basically, we have a pre-existing lot here that the standard wouldn't allow any uses on it because you could not, even if you didn't have any uses, you couldn't put the leach field on there and meet the standards. So that was something we talked about. That is something that would have to be a condition of any type of approval. We did provide a drainage study for the site. I can tell you that the pre-development runoff rates and the post-developments are lower than pre-development, meaning we're going to have less runoff off the site based on the drainage analysis, based on the treatment plant and stuff, as it sets today, and that's in the drainage study. So we did provide a stormwater operations and maintenance manual as part of the package, and in that is an inspection, operation, and maintenance record form that the owner would inspect it and have to fill out a form determining that things are functioning and if they are, what are. So I think we've provided all the things that were talked about at the Conservation Commission. I have reduced the size of the facility itself to get out of that wetland. And the building itself design has just shrunk up. It's the same as, I think if you go back to the other plan, the building was longer, there was 3 entrance points because there were going to be 3 separate retail spaces within the building. Now there are only 2 proposed. With that, I'll pass it back to the chairman and be happy to answer any questions I can answer.
All right, one of the things I would like to read, first of all, for whatever reason, the Conservation Commission has not been notified that there were any changes, and I just wanted to read a note that I got today and the answer that I gave to Chuck Mitchell today. It says, Jane, this is to let you know that the Tilton Conservation Commission has not heard back from Mr. Sterner, i.e. his proposed project at 304 Laconia Road. We stand by our original concerns relative to this project. And I wrote back to Chuck, the revised plans for 304 Laconia Road were placed in the Conservation Commission's mailbox on June 18th. Dari put it there when we received the revised plans. He did not realize the box was not checked on a regular basis. In the future, be aware that he will place any revised plans involving the Commission in your mailbox when he receives it in the Land Use Office. Tonight, we will go through your concerns with Mr. Smith point by point to determine how and if the Commission's concerns have been addressed, okay? So I have the original letter that was sent with a point, but there are 9 things that you needed to address. And I have gone through some of these as you were talking, but Brett, I would like to satisfy us completely by going through these point by point, and you would let us know how you plan to address those. The first is that we would like to see the building located further away from the wetlands than the proposed 6 feet.
And as I explained, the building was in the wetland, it was up here, the grading behind it was in the wetland buffer. We've taken everything completely out of the wetland buffer, so you can build a building, do the grading, and not even impact the wetland buffer.
Okay. So
Didn't you say that one corner is only 10 feet from that buffer?
From the buffer, yes.
How are you going to put that foundation in? And you're only 10 feet from that buffer.
Shouldn't be any problem. It's plenty of distance.
I did concrete work for 35 years.
Mhm.
And you're going to have an interesting time working around that corner.
Well, the back wall is gonna be a concrete wall for the lower level. I don't think that there should be any problem with it, our experience anyways.
Is it a slab?
Hmm?
Is it a slab?
It'll be a slab, yes.
I thought you said it was gonna be a wall.
This is gonna be slab on grade. The back wall is gonna be a concrete wall because we're digging into the bank side.
4 in, 4 out?
Excuse
Have
me?
you determined the size of that wall?
Have I determined the size of the wall? In which way? The height?
Uh-huh.
I'm sure that my engineer has, but I haven't at this moment in time. The first floor is 204, the back of the area is 210, so it'll be about 6 feet high.
They'll just have to be shut down.
They'll have to one.
They'll just have to stay out of the buffer or be
Yeah,
shut down.
we're required, I think, under the standard to go out there and mark that buffer
Yes, you are.
for them. We understand that.
Okay.
So your 10 feet is the closest point,
This is the closest one,
and what's the other point?
15.
15.
Next is, we feel it is, this is the Conservation Commission, we feel it is important to know the level of the water table at the rear corners of the building, and also where the proposed detention pond is to be located. Now, part of this you addressed, but you would do this.
Well, we haven't taken the soil test out there. We've had the soil scientist out there. We don't believe there's a water table problem based on his report that he submitted to the board. We will be doing a test pit for the leach field.
Okay, these were the points that were brought up though by the Conservation Commission to you. Okay. So basically you can't answer that right now.
Well, I think I think this,
You can for the detention pond, I know, but not for the level of the water table, right?
no, I guess I'd have to go do a test pit to do that.
Okay.
Soil scientist said it was well-drained soil, so typically well-drained soil doesn't have a high water table, but
All right. Number 3, it's important that the contents of the 2 underground tanks be identified and then the tanks removed utilizing the appropriate best practices.
we have a note on the plan for them to do that.
It says you're gonna remove 1 tank. The plan shows 2. Right?
Well, I'm not sure there are 2 out there. There's a concrete tank here.
So what's it right next to it?
Well, we believe that's 1 tank. One's a clean out, one's out of the same
Well,
tank.
I thought originally you
It'll
said
have
there
to-
were 2 tanks.
It'll have to be removed. We know that, whether it's 1 or 2, when they get in there.
Have you identified what's in them?
No, they have to identify them before they remove them. Actually, they'll have to pump them with stuff in them.
You probably read the subject tank. That was a residence.
Hmm?
That was a residence.
Yes. I guess it was.
This is an oil tank. yeah.
Yes, it was. It's been a residence, I know, so that's what I've seen. These emails.
Well, depending on what's there will be, depend on the procedure to remove it.
The next, I know that you did address the 2 existing wells need to be capped appropriately.
We
And
have a
those
note
are
on-
going to be capped?
Yes.
How are they going to be capped?
Well, they'll have to be filled and then capped.
Oh.
I believe is how the process goes.
Are they dug?
I don't believe so. I believe that they were artesian of some type. It's, if they're dug, they'll just be backfilled.
Number 5, the area around the detention pond should be fenced. And you said that, I believe.
Well, no, I didn't. We can fence it, but we don't want to fence it. We think the fencing is ugly. The pond is designed to be, at the most, have 1.5 feet of water in it. It's not designed for that water to stay there. It's designed to infiltrate, and if we have a storm event that gets higher, it will overflow, but it's not a deep pond. It's a shallow area. If you really want to have a fence around that people are going to be seeing from the road, I guess you could do it, but we don't, normally we don't fence them when they're that shallow. You decide you want it fenced, we'll show a fence up there.
Well, I believe that this is information the Conservation Commission said
Well,
that
I would have
they-
gone to
they
the
required.
Conservation Commission, but that isn't how it worked before. We were noticed after they were reviewed the plan, so we went in and answered questions after that. We didn't know what you were gonna do with that.
Well, except within the June 28 minutes.
Yes, we went in after.
Ms. Plesner suggested the case be continued to allow Mr. Smith to meet with the Conservation Commission and the Department of Transportation.
And we met with the Conservation Commission. But we met with the Conservation Commission on the original plan, because that was the plan they had before.
But you revised that original plan, it would seem to me that I would assume that I would need to go back to the Conservation Commission to go over that revised plan to make sure that it addressed these issues. That's
We'd be
why,
happy to do that.
that's why I'm going over these now, because apparently they haven't all been addressed. Or you're making comments like you don't want to fence it when they were saying it needed to be fenced, so.
That is correct.
I guess,
And
those are my concerns.
And again, I'm happy to go to the Conservation Commission. The contact with the Conservation Commission came through the town and then back to us. So I assumed that the town would have given them this plan, they would have reviewed it, commented, and we would have got the comments. We weren't notified of the last meeting, so we couldn't go to even present the plan originally, so I wasn't a part of that, making that arrangement.
Well, part of the
Normally,
condition was that you go to the Conservation Commission,
Mhm.
okay? It didn't say, we'll arrange for for you to go to the Conservation Commission. It was that you were to make that positive move to meet with the Conservation Commission. These were their concerns based on what that original plan was.
And we went and met with them on those
Okay.
concerns.
But wouldn't it make sense that when you change those concerns, if they gave you a list of concerns, that you would go back to them and make that presentation?
I assumed I would go back to them after they reviewed the new plan and gave us their comments.
Well,
That's
I
what I'm
spoke-
saying.
When I spoke to them last night at their meeting,
Yeah.
they said that no one had addressed these concerns with them.
Well, that's not true. We addressed those concerns on the original site plan. I went to that meeting after they reviewed the plan without our knowledge.
Right, but you keep talking about the first one. These pertain to the revised one as well. You've revised the plans, but they still pertain.
I understand that. So I submitted it to the town, assuming the town was gonna give it back to the Conservation Commission. They would review that and then would come in and meet with them, but
Yeah, can I just, Chairman Olden, may I say something? So this letter requests, so request changes to be made to the original submission. So upon receiving this letter, the applicant addressed those concerns, and that's reflected on the plan that he submitted over 2 weeks ago that was placed in the Conservation Commission's box. And I've heard him now say that he's more than happy to meet with them again if they'd like to do that.
And again, that letter is relative to the first review of the old plan, which we went in and met with them on. And that's as a result of why we changed this plan. I assumed I would give it to the town, it would go to the Conservation Commission, would get the comments and go in and answer them if we had to. I'm not trying to avoid them, I just
No,
need to
I
know
understand that. I just,
when to do that.
okay, the proposed site plan, this is point number 6. The proposed site plan should include the maintenance plan for the detention pond, with someone assigned the responsibility for carrying out the plan. And you touched on this by saying someone, whatever they determine this is going to be, will have to.
Well, it's the owner's responsibility, it's in the maintenance plan that we submitted.
Yeah.
And we gave them a inspection form to be able to do that, to understand what they should be looking for.
But your maintenance plan doesn't specifically designate anyone.
It says right in the very beginning, the owner.
And that's what it said. It'll be up to the owner to appoint.
Owner and
someone.
owner's representative.
Yeah.
Well,
That could be
the owner
anybody.
appoints a representative, but it would be the owner's responsibility.
Okay.
Let's just make it owner's.
Yeah, I understood that. Number 7, the size of the septic system needs to be determined based upon potential uses by any occupants on the property. And during the construction phase of the proposed building, including excavation activities, pouring of footing, foundation, and then installing drainage around the foundation, would seem difficult, if not impossible, to not negatively impact the adjacent wetlands.
Yes.
And,
Based on the original plan, that was the case. The building was
Right.
in the wetland buffer.
okay, but I think Selectman Dawson brought up some areas of, it may be difficult to not impact it with the 15 and 10 foot buffer. All right, we would hope that all conditions specified in the ZBA decision case number 11-04 will be implemented in addition to our above concerns.
Well, the only condition in the ZBA approval was that if the site plan was approved and wasn't acted on within a year, then the variance would not be any good any longer.
Well, it would seem to me appropriate, probably, I'm gonna open it up to the planning board to see what you have to say, or any comments you may have. I have concerns about whether or not the Conservation Commission will be happy with this plan, and there was misunderstanding. The plans were given to them, they were not picked up. And we were not aware of that until I got this letter, which is not your fault, that's,
Well, we'd be happy to go in and
Okay.
go over it with them.
but are there any comments from the planning board at this point?
Maybe I'm confused on this, but wasn't there an issue with the original driveway permit that there was a turn lane or something like that to be put in?
Originally, but they've decided they don't need it.
That was DOT though.
That was
That was- yeah, it was-
DOT, right, we have the DOT permit. They had already given them a permit for 5,000 square feet before we even met with him, so we were really a little confused as what the issue was. We reduced the size of the building, and we reduced it again, but they had already issued him a permit for 5,000 square foot retail space. The reason we went back to them was that we relocated the driveway itself. We shifted it this way probably 10 or 15 feet. So we felt we're shifting it, let's go back to them, and that's what came up.
Jules, you had a question?
Said that you made changes to the retention pond for the possibility of a 100-year storm.
That is correct. It's designed for the
Describe
100-year storm.
What the changes you made?
Yeah, we had to make the overflow area about 2/10 of a foot higher to meet the 100-year storm. It was basically designed, your regulations call for analysis of 25 years. We did a 25 and 50, I believe, but the design ended up being almost close enough to 100. Just had to make a minor tweak, and he resubmitted.
And he did make that line tweak.
That's correct.
I'm looking at this design and I'm still trying to figure out how you're going to put that foundation without harming.
It's a slab.
Yeah,
No,
but
it's a
still
it's a
slab,
footing, a foundation,
whatever.
and a floor, which will be on grade.
Right.
Slab on grade is not a floating slab.
So you're not gonna be disturbing the wetlands at all by bringing the trucks in and doing what you have to do?
No,
You have 10 feet from this corner closest.
that's correct.
Now, it looks like it runs quite a ways down that wall, and then it fans out a little bit.
Correct.
How you, they're just gonna have to, or it'd be closed down.
It's just
I don't see
scary.
how you're going to, I mean, how wide is an excavator?
Well, the excavator's not gonna have, we're gonna be digging it out from this side,
How are you
first
gonna
of all.
backfill it?
Huh?
How are you gonna backfill it?
Are we gonna
After
backfill
the
this?
foundation is in, you're gonna backfill it from the inside?
We can.
That means that whole front wall is gonna be at grade almost. That whole front wall,
There's no front wall, this is slab at grade out here.
there's gotta be a 4-foot wall.
There's gonna be there's gonna be a footing in there 4 feet down.
A footing and a frost wall on top is what it is.
Yeah. And that's gonna be in the
So
ground.
they'll have to crawl over that and backfill it from the back? How are you gonna get the dirt back
They're not gonna
there?
have any problem backfilling it.
Okay. It's gonna be a challenge, but like I said before, it's nothing to prevent them from building there. They're just gonna have to abide by those specifications while we're under construction.
It's
And you're aware of that?
Yeah, it's a tight site, I don't question that, I told them that right from the very beginning.
We'll have to get somebody real
I-
crafty.
Well, yes.
Like Dawson?
No, we don't do digging.
All right, is there any
I
other-
see, three areas that really aren't addressed. The level of the water table at the rear corners of the building, the fence around the detention pond, we'll go with it. It seems like it's not a big deal. And, the closeness, the 10-foot that we just discussed, but like I said, it's,
Well, again,
if they're
Well, I think that
approved,
they need to
they're
go back
just
to the
gonna have to.
Conservation Commission.
I'll be happy to go back to the
Exactly.
Conservation Commission and talk with them, if you can tell me what their schedule is, and we'll set up a meeting with them. We
July.
moved everything completely out of the buffer itself, which is what we're asked to do. You have a buffer for a reason, you're supposed to be able to build up to it, I assume, or the buffer would be bigger, and so that's what we've done. Is this maybe a little more of a challenge for construction? The site's a challenge to start with for construction. I don't argue that point at all.
They'll meet on the 21st.
They meet on the 21st.
On the 21st?
Yes.
So we should notify them tomorrow about coming in?
Yes.
Our understanding was that their concern was that we were digging in the buffer, the area that was supposed to separate the wetlands and protect the wetlands. That's what that 20-foot buffer is, has been a determination that you need 20 feet to protect the wetlands. So that's why we moved it out and beyond the 20 feet.
What is the difference? That's the well you're putting in that I see between.
Yeah, it's an artesian well
right there.
closing here,
Okay. And the state's wellhead protection area is what, 75 feet?
75 feet, yeah, if you can get it.
Is that, what is that?
That'll be 75 feet. It doesn't have to be, you can sign a waiver.
I know you can with them.
Yeah, when you have a
But
pre-existing lot
that's
like
there.
this, you know, again, it's like the septic system.
But what does our ordinance say?
Sorry.
I don't think
I
so.
don't think there is anything, but distance of building from a well, yeah, I don't think it's, I think that's generally a state thing.
I think the
It's just
wetland
generic.
standard from the septic system is
It's a
25
septic
feet.
system that I think
Well, it
is.
varies depending on the flow and whether it's a community well or private well
Well,
or
yeah.
bedrock well or
Yeah. Yeah.
what kind of well, but 75 is kind of the minimum standard.
Yeah.
I can't read that distance. What is that distance? Distance. Oh. That's not what it is. It sure doesn't look like it's 75 feet with your scale. From the building.
From the building?
Mhm.
No, it's not from the building. It doesn't have to be 75 feet from the building. It has to be 75 feet from the septic tank or the leach field. And the protective radius is supposed to be all within the lot itself, if it's possible. If it can't be all within the lot, then you have to sign a waiver, which makes your abutters not responsible if it gets polluted.
Your catch basins, you have sediment traps in them, what about oil water separators?
Don't have any on the road now. If it was on our own site, we probably would.
Aren't you installing these?
Hmm?
Aren't you installing
We're
those?
replacing them out there and fixing them.
I'd like to see them,
No.
both oil water separators and sediment
Well,
traps.
it's got sediment traps in them.
Are you going to clear this property? I mean, I'm looking at your snow storage.
It's pretty well cleared now.
Yeah, it is.
I gave you some pictures, but the tree line is back here.
I live next to it. I
Okay.
drive by it every day, twice a day.
And I drive by it at least once a day.
Yeah, okay.
Are there any more comments from the planning board? Questions? We're gonna open it to the public. Are there any comments or concerns or questions from the public?
Any retailers already slotted for those spaces? That's another question.
That'd be too easy.
I just gotta know, being a retailer.
Yeah.
Leach field. Can't have a leach field without a variance, right? Is that what you said?
You can't do anything with the leach field on this lot without some type of wet. That's correct.
And what if you don't get the wet?
Then I guess he won't be able to build on it, but that's not usually the way.
Ouch.
Hmm?
Ouch. It has a leach field on it currently though, right?
Yeah, we believe the
Tell
leach
me
field,
outside,
we believe the
but-
leach field is right here beside the wetland. Yeah.
That was back in the day.
I mean, if we were creating a new lot, I would say it isn't gonna happen. This is a pre-existing
Yeah.
lot. It's been there, it's been developed as a, I guess you say it was a residence? Is that what
Yeah,
it was?
Carrie Powers lives there.
Yeah, it was a residence for a long
So-
time, and then it's
Small
been
town.
vacant for a long time.
Right, I know it's been vacant for
And
a
we
long
had
time.
someone, at least 3 years ago, come in who was gonna buy it, and then he suddenly, I guess he bought it, but he passed away very suddenly, and then it was vacant again, and
No, well, you say you live by it, what, do you know when they did the clearing and kind of rubbed it out there? Because they really,
It was a while ago. It was, I
when that
can't-
gentleman lived there?
Powers, no.
No.
Powers moved away a long time ago.
70s maybe?
Yeah. Well, no, right after graduation,
Yeah.
75 maybe. They, no, it was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. It wasn't that long ago, but it was a while ago. In your maintenance manual, you said the pond also has a temporary filter fabric sediment trap to help filter out sediment near the outlet. Temporary in that it'll be maintenance and replaced? Or temporary in that eventually it won't have sediment trap?
Well, the sediment trap is there for the
Construction.
the construction side of it. Once it's been stabilized and stuff, there should be no need for that. There will be periodic maintenance of the bottom of the detention basin as you drive by some of these. They fill up, they need to be cleaned out.
Except we can tell you stories about detention ponds, especially at Lowe's, that
I-
went through a 100-year storm event, and the plume of dirt, brown, into the
Yeah.
Winnipesaukee River was amazing.
And I did a Lowe's or a Walmart in Guilford, and I designed the original Richards Plaza, and we had two very extensive detention ponds that functioned very well for 15 years, but because no one maintained them, they filled up with sediment, they didn't do the job, they blew the pipe out down in the brook, did the same thing.
Except this one was only, what, 2 years old?
Yeah, but they didn't maintain it.
But you gotta maintain things.
2 years old.
You have to
It was
maintain,
huge.
you have to
Yeah.
maintain.
There was nothing
things.
growing in it, I can tell you.
Well, then I
But-
can't speak to.
So
the-
why not leave the sediment trap in and have it a maintenance issue, since you're, I mean, the maintenance is excellent. I mean, I don't think you've left anything out.
Well, I think because, again, the sediment is really expected during the construction, but once the site's stabilized in there shouldn't be a whole lot of sediment getting into that. There's gonna be more sediment getting into these out here, that's why they have sediment basins in them.
Everything runs downhill to it.
Yes, it does. That's why it's down in that corner.
So the expectation is that whoever owns that property will maintain everything green, or I
I
assume that's
believe
an
that's the-
asphalted parking lot.
I believe that's the expectation of any project that's done, the owner is to maintain it as designed.
But we know that doesn't
I
happen. So
understand
again,
that,
why
but I
not,
can't police that, I mean,
so
we
why
have
not,
standards and.
why not leave that sediment filter in there? Isn't that the best protection for our wetlands?
You leave something that's not necessary, I guess, I don't know.
Well, the state doesn't think Well, water separators necessary, but we know all the drains go to the rivers.
I don't agree with the state on that.
All right, I feel strongly, and I'd like to hear how other people feel on the board, that you should return and meet with the Conservation Commission on the 21st.
I agree wholeheartedly, I don't have a problem with that. I'll have to see if I can do it on the 21st, I don't know if I have another meeting. But we will meet with them before we come back here. I have no problem with that.
Then what's going on? And what's the next, what meeting would be that, of hours after the 21st?
August, what is it? I'll check.
August 12th.
Thank you.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? All opposed? All right, we'll see you then.
Thank you.
And hopefully in the future we can make sure that, I think we're sending a letter to Chuck, they'll now know to look in the mailbox. I just went in and looked at it, there's a lot of things that I would have thought the lines would have picked up.
Well, their regular meeting is, they only meet once a month, the third Monday, so the meeting they had last night was just because of the trail that I brought. I mentioned it to them last night.
Okay. Moving right along is planning board case 14-08, site plan review proposed to operate a florist business at 315 Main Street in the downtown district. Route 546.
Do you have any questions?
Well, let us just look at the application.
If I may, Mr. Holland brought in a diagram depicting the parking spaces the on-site parking spaces. She brought it in just this evening, so we had copies for the board.
Thank you. Would you make the presentation?
Thank you, board members. The purpose of this is mainly to get an approved change of use for this building for Simple Trades, which is a florist that's currently operating on the riverfront waste building down at 3222 West Main Street. There is nothing going to be changed for the exterior of the building regarding drainage or any environmental issues whatsoever. I addressed that point by point going through the items that were in the site plan checklist document. There are no changes to utilities going forward there. You can see it in the location of the building based on, this is just an overlay of the map right off the town's tax map. The only natural feature on site is the Packer Brook, which runs along the eastern boundary of the site that won't be changed at all by us. And just for reference, there's some included photography of the building from all four sides. The one additional item I brought up tonight was, in case the board has any questions regarding parking right there, let me give you a little backstory about the forest that's operating right now. I had 6 months worth of data of all our orders, and of that 6 months, only 21 of those actually were walk-in customers. So the bulk of our business is people calling, orders coming in via the internet through wire services like FTD and that sort of thing. Right. So
How many walk in, did you say? I'm sorry.
over a 6-month period, we had 21.
Thank you.
So, regarding the space there, there is sufficient space along the west side of the building for 2 vehicles there to accommodate even a larger delivery vehicle. In the rear, there is a space that's already paved for a smaller car size vehicle. Regarding on-site use of that, there's typically only one employee in the store at a time with a short overlap around midday. My wife is the primary manager of the business, owner actually. We have an employee that does the morning shift, and then my wife comes in usually early afternoon, and another employee leaves, and she will to the end of the day. We contract our delivery, so there would not be an on-site delivery presence there all the time. The driver just comes, picks up, loads, unloads, and then comes back. So the one exception to foot traffic would probably be Valentine's Day, where we get a little bit more in the foot traffic orders, but we still do have the majority of our orders coming from online or call-in services. Please answer any questions.
Did you say you had pictures of the site?
Yeah. Let me give you a copy.
I just pulled one up, but it's a winter picture.
Can you just hand it? Anyone else need one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You do realize that the occupant who was there before considered themselves retail space?
No, I did not.
No, we didn't. We were told that we had to do a change in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess maybe it's totally unnecessary. But if you turn to the,
Well, in that case, then now you just know about our business.
so if you turn to the third page, here we have the pictures from the west and the north side, and then if you turn the page, you'll see the east and the south side from across Route 3 and from the Citgo gas station right next door. One thing I forgot to mention, we do have an agreement on the page following the photographs from Stafford Oil, the owner of that space, to utilize some of their parking on a temporary basis for those walking customers that we would get. Anyone staying there long-term in the building for more than a few minutes, for instance, a wedding consultation, bridegroom, that sort of thing, would use one of the parking spaces I already mentioned.
You said go parking lot?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just directly right
Oh, I know,
next
I'm
door.
very familiar with it.
Yeah.
How many employees?
My wife and
Just me and
Tracy.
my assistant.
So just 2 of you?
Yeah, that's it.
You riding the same car?
No, we're not right in the same car. She comes from Meredith and I live on Deer Street, so yeah, no.
You do have public parking.
Yeah, and we do. We have
Across
that
the
right
street.
across the street.
And
Yeah.
Mhm.
Most people don't realize the parking
Yeah.
lot of the old post office.
Yeah.
That's public parking.
And that
as
is
well.
too, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, yes, it
A
is.
lot of people don't realize that's
Okay.
public parking. Not the one out back, but the one by the railroad track.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Directly across
It's
from.
definitely a non-conforming situation for grandfather in the building.
Yeah.
My concern is in the back where Packer Brook is. There is nothing there except brick.
Yeah.
Right, there's no guardrail or.
There's nothing.
There's no guardrail there?
Nothing.
No, it's only on
No.
the Citgo side.
Oh.
It's
There's
just,
no guardrail.
there's the brook. And it goes right under the building and on the road.
Yes.
And you have children who fish there.
Yeah, we've noticed that, yeah, that's okay. We like people. We can, limit that to just employee, parking or just for, our driver. Just to come up there and pop the stuff in the car and take off,
If this is approved, if you plan to remove most of the vegetation that is there now overgrown, so it'd be
Like
a bit more
weeds
visible.
and things
And
like that.
sufficient warning could be put in or.
Good job, he's not weak. Have fun with that.
Well, yeah, and again and again, and we do it again and again and again.
Load the torch.
Yeah.
My only real concern is the parking issue.
Right.
And, I guess and I understand that you have permission from Citgo, but what if he all of a sudden decides to withdraw that?
We still have 3 spaces available,
Okay,
and,
And the parking
even
across
without
the
that,
street.
and the parking across the street.
all right,
I know the parking across the street is a little more limited in the wintertime regarding snow and that sort of thing, because this town does not clear that. But even without the Cisco and the spaces across the street along Route 3, we do have enough for 3.
and you do have the parking over at the old post office?
Yes,
Right.
that too.
And you do have the parking in the bank?
Yes,
Yes.
that
All right.
municipal
Those are
parking, yes,
municipal
that's
parking.
right.
Bank? The
Yeah.
old Vivian? That's not municipal, that's privately owned by the bank.
Oh, I thought part of that was municipal.
Oh, I thought it was too.
No, that parking lot is owned by Northway Bank. People
And
park
someday
Everybody
they'll
parks
close
it.
it off,
Yeah,
but
and that building is
not
sold.
today.
That's gonna be hard
That
to do
will
with an
cease to
ATM.
be public.
God,
parking.
we should be
I did
so
not realize
lucky.
that.
The parking lot
Somebody
at,
to-
Tilton
Yeah.
House of Pizza is
Yes,
municipally
the,
owned.
That's, oh, okay, well, that,
That's municipal.
okay, well, that,
On the
yeah.
south
And
side
we-
of Route 3.
I like the fact that you're saying that's parking and there's a no parking sign, I believe, on the back.
Yes.
Well, that's gonna be.
That's for other people. No, we'll keep it no parking, because we're gonna, have it be employee parking.
We-
We
we
It's
don't
might
nice to
want-
see that say employee parking.
You
Yeah.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, you
Private
should
parking.
have
Yes.
employee parking on there
Yes.
then.
I
We
just-
haven't modified the structure.
Most
yet.
people drive in there and they get out and
Yeah,
you'll have to catch them in the river.
yeah, no, we're not gonna,
Maybe some basic fencing.
And we do have an ordinance, by the way, on parking.
Yes, I was, Darby shared that with me.
Okay.
And I do have some measurements for basically the front of the building, the very first room when you walk in the building. That is going to be the old retail space. The back, what was formerly an office, is going to be work area for the 2 floor designers. And then the utility and sort of kitchen area and the boiler room is not going to be retail. So the front space is 18.5 by 16 feet, which is just shy of 300 square feet. So according to the ordinance that Darby shared with me, that requires 1 parking space per 300 feet. So including the 2 employees in the single parking space, we should be within the
Okay.
regulation.
Chairman, this spacing is not consistent according to our town parking.
But this is a lot that's in existence. It's a non-conforming lot. This lot is,
Well, my-
grandfathered, this lot has always had 2 spaces there. I don't
Right.
think you can make an ordinance apply to it since it exists.
My other concern would be access to that. How would people access it? How are we going to prevent them from parking in front of the store? Similar to a situation that we had
Oh.
at that
That's my
convenience store.
concern too.
And-
yeah, I have my ways. Just, pretty flower things, just window boxes and things like that, just.
There is actually a municipal sidewalk that crosses right there, so our motor vehicles
Cannot,
allowed the
yeah.
state of New Hampshire to
We
cross
won't.
the sidewalk unless they're accessing a
We
driveway.
will not allow any
Right.
customers to park. I mean, it's such a small building, it's very easy to see, if I see somebody park there, I'll say, oh, whoops, how about, just pull over here, or
Temporary
just right
signage
over
during
there,
open hours.
Well, that's one of the things I would suggest, and I will say that I haven't seen that violation in that particular building. I don't see people, I didn't see people when the sign shop was there, parking there. And since they do have the spaces from the Citgo, I think that would prevent that from happening. Because it's obvious that there's a sidewalk there, and
Yeah.
there's very little space between, so I don't think it would be the same situation as those other areas where we've had problems before. But I would suggest that possibly you put a planter there, since you're a florist shop, that
exactly.
We
might
do have
be
a couple big fiberglass doors.
Remembering that there is a sidewalk.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly, not just block
Don't
it,
stick the
but,
kids in the street.
no, absolutely not.
Chairman, I beg to disagree. I don't think the sidewalk is that obvious. I think we had that problem at the other end of that block where the town had to go in and paint lines to mark the sidewalk. And I am concerned here that wherever they put things, I still think we're gonna have an issue with people parking in front of that business because it's a quick stop.
Well, as I say, I don't think it was an issue when that sign shop was there before.
No, but the sign shop is different than a
They
florist.
parked on the other side, and,
Perhaps,
You know.
no parking sign.
Yeah,
We could mount a parking sign in like a steel rim and.
I'm just trying to prevent another issue that we had.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't wanna have any issues and,
Yeah, we don't need that parking out front, we have sufficient.
We have
If there's some
plenty.
signage you feel comfortable with us using or marking that in some way, we're totally open to those suggestions.
And the other thing, are you aware of our signing ordinances?
yeah, but there is a grandfathered sign on
Yes,
the
on the
building, and
top of
that's
the
all we
building.
intend to use.
All right.
Yeah,
There's not gonna be any
But,
additional sign.
and you know that you can only cover a certain percentage of the
Correct.
space.
I-
All right, I just want to make you aware of that.
yeah, I
because
don't even know.
That
I-
became
I
an
will-
issue with the last merchant who was there.
No,
Oh, I
no,
see.
we don't intend to cover the windows because that would kind of defeat the purpose
Of
of
the
seeing
portion.
this stuff.
Seeing what we're
outside.
doing in there, yeah.
So we may cover partially cover some of the southern exposure with lines and shades during periods of the day, just to reduce the overall heat, because, you know, we don't specialize in tropicals that kill the flowers pretty quickly.
Oh, there's the flowers in the window.
Any more comments
Oh, they
from
die
the-
pretty
or
fast
questions
in
from
the
the
window.
planning board?
Unless they're growing.
Let me see if there's sign
You all
with
satisfied? All right, I'll open it up to the public.
As I recall, the problem with the parking down the street was due to the fact that somebody painted parking places which they weren't allowed to park in or paint. There's no parking space painted in front of that building. So the chances of people parking there, I think, are quite diminished compared to down the street.
It's not like the stuff.
And I really,
Yeah.
I go by that 20 times a day probably, and I've never seen, when there was the other store there, an issue with people trying to park there. I think the issue was people trying to park in Citgo's lot.
Right.
And you've already gotten permission
Right.
from them. for
Our intention
temporary.
is to, just as a gesture, during holiday times and times where we think that there will be higher, ins and outs, I'm just going to give them with roses, that are single wrapped for them to have and sell. That's not really our specialty. We do that, but when it's Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, we could have a much bigger order price. So it's easy for us to do that for them and make it a kind of a thank you for these parking spaces. And
Marvin.
just kind of, give them a thing, to let them know we appreciate that.
All right. Anything else from the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion. Anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to
All right, good.
approve this case. Site plan.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
All in favor? Opposed? Go that way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
When do you plan on opening?
Good luck. When do you plan on opening it?
We have 16 weddings in August, so we need to get moved in there as soon as possible.
Oh,
We do 50 weddings a year, so our big wedding month is August, so we really hoped that we could get this done now.
Well, we're gonna move.
Where we only have 2 weddings this month, which is easy sneezy. But when we have the 16 wedding month, that's, we don't even sleep, so.
Not much.
No, not much, so.
All right.
Well, thanks so much. Stop in and see us.
Thank you.
Well, we will, I'm right up the street.
Awesome. Nice meeting you all.
Good night. All right, I would like to read a letter that we received, just so you're aware of this, and this is addressed to me, dear Ms. Alden, subject to authorization. And this is from MC&G Inc., which is basically the company that operates Riverfront Park Building, where they remember that that's where they were located. They're moving from there to this retail space that we just approved. It says, thank you for the notification and opportunity to respond to the application before you concerning the establishment of a floral business at 315 Main Street at map U5 lot 26 in the old Aqueduct building, office building. This site has very limited opportunity for parking, considering the amount of open space in comparison to improvements, much as our 307 Main Street location. 307 Main Street is the area that Eric alluded to. The situation at 307 Main Street, map, and he gives the map, is nearly identical, except that we were not required to bring application before your board for utilization of our 4 grandfathered parking spaces on private land adjacent to Main Street. Okay, now, I don't know what 4 grandfathered parking spaces on private land adjacent to Main Street he's talking about, except those 4 spaces that he painted. Is that what he was alluding to?
Yes, but they can't be grandfathered because that's the state of New Hampshire.
Well, they
The state
can't
of
be
New Hampshire-
grandfathered because they were non-existent to
That's
begin
right.
with.
The state of New Hampshire
Okay.
has stated equivocally that they have
Yeah,
never.
I just want people
Allowed.
to be
Those were
aware
the
of that.
spaces I was alluding to.
Okay, I know it was, but I just for your edification, they were never grandfathered, ever. Someone painted them of their own accord, so just keep that in mind. We support this application for the grant of parking spaces, and if Mr. Gerasi, is that how you pronounce that? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yes, is successful, you should expect an application for the use of our grandfathered parking spaces with an identical result. Not granting these parking spaces would force the applicant to attempt to utilize spaces owned and controlled by others, and we have none to spare. Did you hear that? Did you understand that?
No.
What he's basically saying is that they really hope that we will grant parking space to the floral shop. And they in turn will expect that they will be able to use their grandfathered parking spaces.
How does one thing have to do with the
It
other,
doesn't. I'm
Madam Chair?
just making you aware of a letter that we received in the land use office,
Mhm.
okay? Or it was addressed to me, all right? And that it would force the applicant to attempt to utilize spaces owned and controlled by others, i.e. going over to Riverfront Park and parking, okay? Or further, using parking spaces across the street that they alluded to, that they said were not cleared, which are the town of Tilton's parking spaces.
Public parking.
So let me continue to read. Understand that. Those are public parking spaces across the street from the Citgo and the floral shop. But let me read this to you. Each parking space is worth roughly $30,000. Approving the parking spaces will relieve the parking congestion in downtown, which is the single most cited reason for the paucity of businesses locating here. This congestion is made worse by Tilton's refusal to remove snow from the parking spaces along the south side of Main Street, opposite the applicant, section 13B of the application, which are those 2 spaces across the street. It is essential that the planning board require Tilton to maintain these parking spaces in the future winters for the benefit of the applicant, tax base, and community. Tilton removed a crosswalk from Main Street, Academy Street intersection, approximately 20 years ago, before my time,
Okay.
when Route 3 and 11 were widened. A crosswalk at this location would certainly benefit the applicant by facilitating the utilization of the parking on the south side of Main Street. End of letter. Respectfully, James M.G. Cropsey. All right? I wanted to read that into the letter so that you are aware of the fact that this issue will probably rear its head at some point in time.
Sure sounds like it.
Are there any questions or comments about the letter?
I do have a comment. Is within the purview of the planning board to require the town of Tilton to clear parking places at the behest of anybody?
No.
I didn't think so, but I just thought I would check.
I think the letter came to the planning board because the applicant who's moved out of that piece of property was coming to the planning board, and so that's
And
why it was being brought up.
I would inquire as to whether the planning board intends to answer MGC letter. That whole grandfathered parking place thing, knowing this individual,
I
if it's
think
not
that should
responded
be-
to, it's like, well, I said they were grandfathered and they didn't say no.
That will be responded to, and I think that, Dari, you can, now that you and we can talk more
Yeah.
about what has taken place. We spent some time today going through some things, but, definitely will, because it is not,
I think you need to be very careful how you respond to that, because that's a situation between the selectmen and that property owner.
well, I think the way we should respond to this is to say, to our knowledge, there are no grandfathered parking spaces at that location.
I'd simply refer to the
However, we
selectmen.
are going to refer it to the selectmen for further clarification and let him take it up with the selectmen.
I
Is
don't
that,
think you should register an opinion like that at all.
you don't,
No, just let it go.
just ignore the letter?
No, just say just let him know, thank him for sending the letter and, responding to a planning board applicant, and you've sent the letter off to the selectmen.
All right.
And I think it's also important to note, because of the sequence of events tonight, that this letter does not make comment on the application that was before the board, and therefore, it made sense to read
Right.
it when you read it. If someone were to say, well, why wasn't that introduced as part of the public comment? Again, there's nothing in here that sort of speaks to that application. It simply says, if you approve this, that means that I get all these things,
Yeah.
which I don't think anyone in town agrees with.
Right. And that is why I read it, when I read it, I did not want to make it appear that in any way affected them. Okay? But that's just for everybody's information. The next is Planning Board Case 1409, Site Plan Review for the retrofit existing space and operate a real estate office at 477 Laconia Road in the mixed-use district. Does everyone know where this is? This is the old Tilton Nursery building,
Yeah, I'm still mad at him.
because they went out of business. I am too, because I like them.
It was such healthy plans.
They were very nice plants, they had a very nice gift shop.
I used to go there all the time. My
Very
wife
good
loves that
gift.
place.
get my kids involved, sir.
No, so I would, so everybody does know where it is, and you're going to tell us what you would like to do.
Sure. I'm Jim Regan, I'm the sales director of Better Homes and Gardens, not sales group. I currently have an office up here at 46 Main Street, West Main Street. I've been the sales director over there for just under a year, and we're outgrowing the space over there, and we'd like to get into a bigger location. We're in just about under 2,000 square feet. Parking has been an issue since I've been there, and it's part of the issue of why I hadn't been there before now. Dave is a former sales director, and he can attest to the parking issues in that parking lot. So we've been looking for a more ideal space to conduct business, and when 477 Laconia Road came available, I thought it would be the perfect space to have a nice office with a bigger building. We checked it out, we liked it. The owners came down, they liked it as well. We have 34 offices between Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts. It's a great company. We're looking to get more agents, more business, grow our business, and it's just, not gonna happen in our current location. So in order for us to grow, we've decided to try to move to a better location, a bigger location, so that we can do that. We currently operate between $10 and $15 million a year in sales. We'd like to gain that to be 20, 25 million in the next year or two. So we're looking for kind of a change of use, because it's kind of the same thing as the last one. I think Ross, the owner, had a retail space there, and that's what it was called. It's pretty much the same thing. But we just don't have anything material to sell at the location. So Ross Brown is the owner. He'll continue to own the property. We'll lease the property from him. We'll utilize the sign, if granted. And if he wants a sign for Central New Hampshire landscaping, he'll have to come to the town and apply for variance. So we don't want to share a sign with another business, and it's not an option for us. So if he wants to get any type of signage, he'll have to go through you guys to do that. We'll utilize the sign that he has, if we're able to have the location. Inside, retrofit will basically be all new internet, all new phone, and approximately 22 desks. And we'll have a part-time administrator from 8 to 12, and we have a full-time agent there, pretty much full-time from 9 to 5 every day. And we have agents in and out. Everybody that works there is an independent contractor, so we can't really tell you that there'll be 10 agents there every single day of the week, because a lot of people work from home.
What are you gonna do on the second floor?
Second floor will be my office, and we'll have 9 desks on the second floor. They currently had 4 and 4, and our retrofit, we're trying to get, as many desks obviously as we can for growth. So we have my office, and we'll have 4 desks on one side and 5 desks on the other, for, I think there's 21 total.
How many parking spaces are there?
There's a handicap spot right out front, and there's 18 spaces for parking.
Do we have a site plan for that?
The only site plan I submitted was that one, that's a larger one that already shrunk down.
Yeah.
All the greenhouses will be removed.
Yeah. You're a realtor, you don't know where you are?
I didn't do the site plan, I
Good.
submitted the site plan. I
Good.
didn't. I am a realtor, and I wouldn't change
It's
the
not
document.
Jamestown.
I wouldn't change the document.
Otherwise you'd be in Belmont.
Right. So,
Your office is there at one time on the second floor?
yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
In that building?
Yep.
No, I don't know what he had there
I-
besides.
He had storage for a while, for a long time, but I
He
think,
asked us if we wanted the desk,
Prior
there's 4
to
desks
that-
on one side and 4
yeah,
desks on the
prior
other.
to that, there were some offices there, I believe.
What's the name of your company?
Better Homes and
Better
Gardens,
Homes and
not the other group?
Okay. Okay,
Is
thank you.
this property hooked up to the sewer?
Yes. No, it's got septic design, and it's.
This property is within the sewer,
Yes, it is.
so it needs to be hooked up?
That's up to you, not up to me, to tell me that, yes.
Our ordinance requires that this property be hooked up. It's not a new septic, right?
I don't know what Ross put in, the owner, when he opened the nursery building. The building was built in 2006, so I'm assuming,
Yeah, but that's the existing nursery, it was Tilton Nursery.
right.
But see, you can still not
Do you know that it's not hooked up to the sewer?
I do know it's not hooked up with, there's a private septic system, and it's, it doesn't have septic alarm.
Usage charges.
The Mayflower or something.
Yeah, it was Mayflower.
Consider that
Nursery.
fine.
Yeah, the septic, but
Yeah, if they're within 150 feet, they're supposed to hook up.
Well, Ross Brown's still the owner.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You're saying the trigger for that is the change of use?
No, it should have been done a long time ago.
Okay.
The change of use wouldn't trigger that.
I just wanted to clarify
No,
that.
he should have
yeah.
done that within a certain amount of time of the project.
Okay.
Being completed once sewer is available, and that's not enforcement.
So that his site was developed after sewer was already available in our
No.
There's a comment in the top right of that, it says 3 sewer lines, I don't know if that's a.
Yeah, right. Well, I think there's a schedule there to tell you what a sewer line, but I was trying to figure that out.
It feels weird.
Sewer line goes in the, runs down Civil Lake
But it
Road.
doesn't seem like all these buildings are there that are on this plan.
They're not, they've taken some greenhouses
It
down.
just seems like it's like a really outdated plan for us to look at.
Well, there's no snow storage.
The whole front of the building, parking lot, is grass and it's flat.
Yeah, that's good.
According to our site application, this is supposed to show snow storage,
That's what he's proposing.
drainage.
I asked those questions to Diary when I came in, and
All
I didn't
kinds
get
of
those
good
answers
stuff.
from Diary, so.
What I said was that, it's your call, what you wanna indicate is non-applicable, and, planning board will look at that, and they may not agree on everything. And what we talked about is the fact that there were no changes taking place to the exterior. And so then I said, you know, base it on your best judgment from there, what you feel like you need to indicate.
You're gonna have 18 parking spaces, you said?
And where are they, and how do they fit in there? and
Yeah, I mean, I
Which one is the
get it.
handicap?
Right.
Where's the handicap one?
I mean, this just looks like a nice exercise in drawing with a protractor and compass.
That's the site plan that was considered sufficient by this town at a time when much more was taking place on that site.
Well, I know that, I know, this was when there was a greenhouse. Some of these greenhouses are now down, okay?
I think it is indicated on, I think there's, you know, I recall indication, I think it's either in his application or somewhere that the greenhouses are gone now. Is that what it was?
Yes,
Okay.
it's 3 greenhouses to be removed.
It's hard to approve.
But
And
know
then it
where
says
parking is gonna
It's
be,
not
or,
existing.
yeah, it is.
Chairman, can we consider this a big site plan? Requested to submit.
I would say so. What we're saying, this is an application for a plan approval. This application has to be complete before we can really move forward. And we're saying it's not.
Yep.
Okay? So I think what you need to do is get with Dari and go over this in more detail. Find out about things like the sewer. Give us some idea of where the parking is going to be, what greenhouses have been taken down, where you're gonna store snow.
Well, I'm concerned if they have 21 desks and 18 parking spaces, so if everyone was in the office, that they didn't have enough
Well, I
parking.
think he said that.
Could.
I doubt it. Not everyone. I mean,
More than half the
they don't
employees
do
are
that.
part-time.
Remember, real estate agents, a lot of them work out of their homes. They're on the road more than they're ever in
I had
the
a lot of
office.
agents that are referral only.
Yeah,
That's
the only time they usually are in the office is if they're doing paperwork.
Okay, well, if you had 10, agents, you don't have a client there, that's 20 cars.
Very good. That's very helpful, thank you.
Okay?
She can be helpful.
Sometimes.
Sometimes she's nice.
All right, then,
What about the DOT permit? They need a DOT permit.
They'll have to update their driveway.
Update their driveway permit, so, but that's all on what you just did, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's state anyway,
Okay.
it's Silver Lake Road, it's a state road, and so we know where 311 is, so that's the state of New
Is the
Hampshire.
store on Route 3 or is it on?
It goes on Silver Lake Road.
No, because we're not doing it. He's gotta do his before we make any motions, right?
Thank you,
Okay.
thank you for your time.
Yeah. Sorry you had to sit through so much.
Me too.
Now,
It's always interesting.
he'd say that. What do you thought of it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, you open it to the public? I'm opening up this to the public because I have questions, I'm on a butter.
Well, we didn't accept the application.
Oh, you didn't accept the
No.
application?
Well, we can hear his comments.
But we
couldn't
can hear your comments if you'd like to.
Yes, I would, I don't want to sit here all night, thank you. And my understanding of the lot is gonna be, is one use now, or was one use, as a nursery, sales, and landscaping business out of that lot. Now it's gonna be two uses out of that lot, a landscaping business and a real estate business, is that correct?
That's what's proposed.
Two uses
That's what's proposed.
proposed. Is there anything about a stump dump use? Or storage of boulders, building, old building material, logs, stuff like that, storage of stuff like that for that use of that land? Does that fall into another category?
Well, what we were going to hear tonight, and we didn't accept the application, was for an office space.
Well, I mean,
The landscape
what I'm trying to say is now,
already
is there
existing.
three uses of this land now? I'm just asking a general question. Is there now, there's a real estate business, and there's a
Not yet.
landscaping business, and a stump dump.
Is that a byproduct of the landscaping?
I
Well,
don't think so.
They didn't come from the property.
I don't know where
No,
it
he
came
goes
from.
out and he
There's
doesn't just sell
There's a
flowers there.
huge stump dump back there with boulders. I wish I brought my cell phone with me because I had plenty of pictures of it. Boulders, building material, storage, all kinds of junk. So if that land wants to change use, is it,
There is a stump
is there,
dump.
is there three uses to that piece of
Where is
land
the
now?
stump dump in relationship to Bamford Brook?
Right next to it.
Kinda, sorta, yeah.
Well, I'm the butter
Oh,
on
it's
the
on
other
the-
side of the brook.
It's not.
Well then,
oh, yeah,
Catherine.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like they're building a
They
big
got good luck.
bonfire.
Where's my
They
stuff?
got a good lot. Make a good lot. It's huge. It's at least 15 feet tall, 30 feet long, and 20 feet wide, and some of the stuff falls on my property.
I think maybe the health officer should take a look at
We
that.
would
Oh,
not
I
get
think
posts
code
that one way.
enforcement.
So I'm saying is, that, you know, one of my question is there three uses of this piece of land now?
No, it hasn't been accepted.
Well, if there is acceptance, is there going to be three, is it broken down into three uses? Because if there is
No.
a storage of
No,
building construction material, a landscaping business, and a real estate business.
no, that's not, wasn't brought up tonight. You're bringing that up. We will see the code enforcement and the health officer address the issue of the stump dump, if you will. And then we will, when you get your application, we'll review that for the,
We don't have a stump.
I knew you did.
Well, yeah, I understand what they're here for, but the whole facility now is changing. The whole site is changing, and to me, it's like there's three uses, not just one use or two uses, there's three uses.
I suspect the stump dump is a side product of his landscaping
landscape.
business.
I mean, actually, it
Because he
changed.
goes out and clears
right.
people's
It
property.
changed from a nursery and
landscapes it.
landscaping business to, we're trying
Storage.
to change it to a real estate
Brings it back
landscaping
there.
business, so there's
We'll
only
find
one
out.
change.
Yeah,
Should've
I
told
know,
me
that's
sooner.
what I was trying to.
I have been in here complaining about it before, but it doesn't seem to get anywhere.
I drive by you almost daily.
Oh, whatever. And the other thing is my next thing is, if they increase the size of parking, is there proper, where's the drainage go?
So that will be addressed when he comes back. That's what he'll show us on his plan. There is an existing parking area there, it's gravelled, but there's existing.
And that portion's paved on one side as
So
well.
we'll have to see what part of that is for real estate and where does he intend to store his landscaping equipment.
Right. I'll outline that.
Okay, there's gonna be issue, that'll be on
That'll be a discussion for another day.
okay.
When they come back and bring their plan, then come back and you can ask some of those questions if you're not satisfied with what you see,
Okay, thanks.
okay?
Yeah.
As a resident of the Silver Lake neighborhood, there's a sign out in front of that business that you propose to use for your business. And that sign has been a pain for everybody that comes out of Silver Lake Road, the location of the sign. Also the fact they had fences and trees and all that stuff has been removed. And I was just wondering, as a gesture, if the sign might come back toward the building just a little bit. Because you come up, the Silver Lake Road is totally poorly designed. Not on you guys at all. But when you're sitting there, I almost got whacked today. You're looking up here, you're trying to crane to look this way, and the sign blocks traffic, blocks
Somebody
the line
did
of
get
sight.
robbed yesterday, didn't they?
Pardon me? That was for a different reason, I
know,
think,
but
but
I'm
in the
just
same
saying.
neighborhood.
Same area.
If you would might consider moving it back a few feet, that would really do a lot for line of sight for those people at the end of Silver Lake Road. Just saying.
I guess that would be depending on where we would be allowed.
Yeah, you don't wanna be changing or altering or moving any signs until you talk to code enforcement.
Right.
trust
Oh,
me.
yeah, but
Because
if
I'm
you
sitting here
consider it,
wondering if your existing sign meets our ordinance, because I found out today,
I have met Al at the property,
and the sign is good.
he tells me,
Well,
based on his research, it's
Okay, good,
40
because
meets the 40 square footage
your
requirement.
neighbor's sign got hit by lightning,
and
and you
he'll
can't,
never have another one.
he won't have another one.
Take a look at that.
Smoking Valley, and how come you won't have another one?
Because
Chairman
it's
Alden?
not great.
We'll take a look at this.
Contemplating maybe that the board should make a motion to actually continue this to maintain continuation of notice and not require the applicant to pay any more butter notification
That's a good
fees.
idea. I'll entertain a motion to continue this. Thank you.
Sure.
Make a motion to continue planning board case 14-09.
Is there a second?
To the August 12th, or
The August 12th meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'll ask for that.
Okay, thank you.
Just to bring up what Catherine said, if you read, you might want to read, those of you who are new, the ordinance for signing, because there are signs that are grandfathered.
Appreciate
The
it.
one smoking barley is, and it's got a flashing cigar or something that I think it had, I don't even remember, but anyway. It was destroyed. And under our ordinance, once it's destroyed, and it even spells out things in that ordinance as to whether it's destroyed, moved, or whatever, they can't replace it.
What is it, 75, what was he saying?
75%, yeah.
75%?
yeah, but
It's 75%.
you know, there's, Al, that's not over yet, yeah, apparently.
It's,
That seems odd, but
it's an ordinance, and I know it seems odd. I didn't believe it.
considering some of the other things they do with signs, that just sounds weird, that's all.
I didn't believe it.
It's not been challenged
And
yet.
so I went and read it,
Hmm.
and it's
I'll have to
spelled
pull out
out,
my
no
ordinance.
ifs, ands, or buts, questionable, or anything else. It's in black and white.
Hey, I hate those signs, so.
So,
You know, businesses are struggling.
Oh, I know they are.
well, I think that's why we need to look at our sign. That's why we've been trying for 2 years to look at the signage, and we can't come up with.
Al said he went through it and sent the planning board suggestions.
I didn't see him, did you?
It was last year. I think last year he
You're no copy.
See that stuff.
did.
Yeah.
Claim she
Email to
didn't.
me, fine, I'll email to
And
her.
yeah, that'll be.
Well, she
maybe
does
file
this, she
paper
goes
somewhere.
down, but she comes back up. So
Well, I would think you, I
She
would
goes
think they
down
would be
Brook
in
Road, she
file
comes back
under
up. So,
signage
yeah,
in
you have to
the
look
land
at
use
that.
office.
Perhaps, yeah.
We do have
We may have him in an email too.
That'd be awesome, thank you.
Okay.
I have slow internet.
The next thing is reviewing the June 24th, 2014 minutes.
There's 200 pages.
Very detailed.
Yes, they are. Well, that's because
I know the last one.
somebody complained.
That was just
You, Sandy would have never said that. Oh, Joe. I had to go there.
I'll tell you, the new ones are like, whoa!
I actually lost my copy. I did see one mistake.
I saw one mistake too, but now I can't, I actually don't see it.
Yeah, it was something singular instead of plural.
There's one typo in there.
Sorry.
Oh, thank
that I
you.
saw.
I have a general question while you're reading, just to throw it out there. It's my understanding that in that particular area with the real estate office, if your building is within 150 feet of the sewer line, you have to look into it. However, you don't, if you have an existing septic system on the property that it conforms to and is approved by the DES, as long as it hasn't failed, you don't have to use your hookup.
No, it has to be so many years old. It can't be older than so many years
Now,
old.
is there an age limit
There's
on
an
it?
age limit.
Because I know of people that have existing septic systems, they're relatively new,
Yeah.
so that could well
My
be.
daughter Helen didn't have to hook up, well, she was also more than 150 feet
Yeah.
off, but also her septic system was 5 years old.
Yeah, but that one would only be 8 years old, right?
Well, that's why I asked him, when was it put in? Or did he go in and work off the existing? Because remember, that was an existing business
Okay,
that
all
had been
right.
there for,
Yeah,
since I was a kid.
Okay,
yeah, that's there forever.
So we don't know that.
yeah.
So,
Well, I can't find it though.
it's page, I found one, page 3 of 4, the last line of the second paragraph. It's a long sentence. Board members possess significant knowledge of the history and current issues, not issue, facing the town, so I can make that correction.
Page 2.
Page 2 or page 3?
Page 2.
Page 3.
I know, but I have it on page 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I keep waiting to hear what it
That's
is.
Yeah,
all
right.
It's just a typo. On the next to last paragraph, Mr. Pirate asked if focus on Main Street was inappropriate.
Wow.
No.
When, it says when.
Issues.
We told you to quit whining, Eric.
In 50 years when they read this though.
Wait, the camera's that way.
And somebody will read it in 50 years. You watch. It happens, I can.
I read selectmen minutes that are over 100 years old.
I've seen them. I don't read them all like you, but I've seen some of them.
She dissects it, she doesn't just
All right, Al,
look at it.
we didn't even make a motion to bring him to the floor. I guess we brought him to the floor. We're done.
Make a motion to bring in the business.
Let's second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Next thing is correspondence. And the correspondence that we have is from the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services approving a new septic design from Mike Gagny at 141 Park Road. Okay. That's all. And then the next order of business is Mill Street parking.
Could I bring something up in the interim while Catherine's gone?
Because we need Catherine for this.
All right, so I'd like to, and this, I haven't mentioned this to Chairman Alden, so I apologize for bringing this out of the blue. So a process of getting applications to planning board members and having planning board members review them in advance of the meeting. I believe everyone's aware that there's a website set up, and if you have trouble printing whatever you want from that website, please let me know in advance. You know, I don't want to set a time limit, but you know, the half hour before the meeting is usually spent by me sort of, you know, getting things put in place. And so if you want things printed in advance, please let me know.
I do apologize.
No, no apology necessary. I mean, I'm aware that this is a new I'm more, you know, I think it's gonna be, there to be adjustment for all of us.
A lot of information on it, it's a good system.
Yeah, thanks. It works well from my end, but that's not the purpose, you know, the purpose of it is to make life easier for you, but the main purpose is to make government in Tilton more accessible to the general public, and if folks are having trouble.
Exactly, and I appreciate that, but understand that sometimes we can review things on that website, we get here, we need to see it,
Yeah,
and it's expensive to print everything in case we're going to need to look at it.
yeah, and I was thinking about that, I wonder if we could, I mean, I'd be happy, like, you know, you
Bring it
get.
up on this, and when we come in,
That's
we
what I
can
was
print it
thinking,
from
people
that.
could
Yeah.
come in and print on this, potentially, Tim's on vacation, I'll check with him to make sure he thinks
Well, I was
that makes
just gonna
sense.
say,
I can access it.
Yeah, okay,
I
can
can,
access it.
I can too, but, you know, I think,
You have a log on for the town of Tilton computers?
no, but I can log on,
she knows how to hotwire it.
Oh, at home?
okay, yeah.
Whoa.
What do we need? I guess it concerns me if we want to look at a hard copy of something and we
Yeah.
don't have it.
Just come
And-
on down,
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
There you go.
that's using gas.
Maybe just one hard copy available.
Or,
Like
I
I
mean,
said, I can turn this
Yeah.
onto the site,
That would be good.
and when you come in, if it's something you want, just print it.
but those, like the Sterner plans, you can blow those up as big, I mean, you can zoom in so you're looking, you know, things are bigger than they are on the big plan,
Yeah.
on your computer screen,
Yeah.
so, and then, you know, for folks who have laptops,
I'll bring my notebook in.
you could
next
download
time,
that
that's
stuff
what
to
I'll
your
do.
laptop and come to the meeting and never, never do anything with any paper. And that would be, you know, super.
That's what I always do.
That's
Yeah.
what I'll do next time.
Okay,
I hate
The other thing I brought up just to somebody, if you don't know where something's located and you don't have time to go driving around looking, if you go onto the Town of Tilton website, okay, go into the tax records, tax cards, log in as anonymous, pull up the address, it'll say, do you want this by street, owner, whatever. So go in by the address, and it will bring the piece of property up. And if you do, it shows you the interior, the photo,
Raw
Or
land, they
one-
won't have
one of
photos.
those.
There has to be a building for the view photo.
and so you'll see a picture.
Of the property.
Of the property.
As opposed to the Google where it's just
Exactly,
satellite.
exactly.
And the tax map and the assessment and everything else.
Okay?
Yeah.
So go to tax cards on the Tilton website?
Yeah.
Public knowledge.
As opposed to tax map, that's a different thing.
And it's an avatar program, and it asks you, how do you wanna log in, and you wanna log in as anonymous, and then it gives you the little graphics that you have to type in. Okay, because I think that's helpful if you have no idea where the piece of property is. And as soon as you zap it up, you'll know immediately that there's a stump up.
Well, he was really adamant, wasn't he?
I think it's on Brook Road.
Okay, last order of business tonight, and I'm gonna have Catherine, I'm gonna give you the whole bottle of wax, cause I'm so frustrated with this whole thing. I'm only kidding you.
Oh, Mill Street.
Yeah, I'm only kidding.
She knew it.
We read a letter tonight from Mr. Cropsey, okay? Some of you who have been on the planning board for a while remember that when Mr. Cropsey came in about the Mill Street parking lot, recall that? And we had pictures and it wasn't really a parking lot and it was supposed to be overflow parking for Riverfront Park. Because a new business had gone in there, it was they were going to have weddings and receptions and so on and so forth. And there would not be enough parking in Riverfront Park. Consequently, there's a walkway that goes to Mill Street, the Mill Street parking lot. And that's where the overflow parking was going to go. Well, one of our our ex officio board member happened to drive down Mill Street recently, and lo and behold, we had the Enchanted Garden, because suddenly there was a gate and a lock across the Mill Street parking. So I'll let you take over from there. That's not permitted, but
Well, a little bit of history is when he came into site plan for Riverfront Place, 2000 was the earliest we found on the site. Year 2000. They created phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 2 development in Riverfront Place, which was, his original was 10,500 square feet. And once he reached that, it would generate phase 2. He came in for amendment, it was increased to, I think, 14,000 square feet. So now, once he reached that, and he has, with the event place that was created, he would have to create the parking on Mill Street. So it's not a parking lot that's designed just for when they have events. He's in phase 2 of that building. That parking lot has to be open.
now do you remember when he came in
Oh,
and
I don't
swore
think
to
it
us,
fits what he,
and swore to us that it was open, and we questioned it because of the condition of the grass up to your waist, and, well, no, it did. This was, well, no, I know, but it has a gate now, too.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be gated, so I mean, technically, by the letter of the law, because he's closed the parking lot, then the code enforcement officer has every right to go in there and pull the occupancy permits of those businesses that were established in phase 2. But he's currently talking to the owner. We researched the files today so he could refresh himself on what had taken place over the years, and we'll see how it works out.
This is all done for your benefit, Dory, so you can be baptized by fire.
I know on the night of the Old Home Day, they were having issues with parking because they had an event.
Right, and they didn't unlock that gate, and their
Officer
parking
Paulus
was in Riverfront Park.
And she came down and we were down about the mall, trying to pick it up the park there. I happened to walk by at that moment in time.
There's always an issue with parking in Riverfront Park. Always an issue.
But I thought he was supposed to make that parking lot all nice and beautiful.
Well, that's what he told us.
His original site plan had drainage,
Yeah.
I believe it was paved.
Or paper, or
Yeah.
pavers or something.
Well, actually,
It was
when he
under-
came in, when he came in to see us, when we questioned him and said, you can't go into phase 2 because you made this promise, you know, and this was a condition of going into phase 2, he was thinking about putting in permeable pavers, if you will recall.
Yeah, I thought they were supposed to. Great. I think that was your last time as chairman, that he came before us.
But just to make a comment on the fellow that came in first, I don't remember his name, was it Sterner?
Sterner.
Well,
when
Steve
I was-
Smith. was
Smith.
the-
Steve
Sterner
Smith
owns
represented
it.
Sterner. When I was talking about wellhead radius, I let his comment go, knowing that he's gonna come back in. But these are the issues. Remember, he said it doesn't matter, you get away with blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
So, do not establish a parking area within the sanitary protective radius. So, I mean, his parking lot is within it. Herbicides and pesticides must not be used or stored within your sanitary protective radius. And he's stood there and said it was gonna be all grass. De-icers, salt, motor oil, or antifreeze when those is not allowed in the sanitary protective radius, hence the parking lot. And they want it to be, if you have a parking area, it has to be sloped away from the protected to well radius area. So there are more issues than that. He is right, though, you can get a waiver when we were dealing with the well at the senior center. There were hoops that we were having to.
It's his well, you know, it's his well, it's only gonna be serving that site.
But it's not a private residence, he's serving the public. It's a community, considered a community well, that's the issue.
Even for a retail business that doesn't sell or dispense
Well,
water.
they don't even know if it's gonna be, you know,
Right.
he doesn't even know if it's gonna be retail, that's the thing that
But here's
bothers
the thing,
me.
yeah, yeah.
It could be a restaurant, could
A
be a
deli.
deli, but they are required under the current building code to have bathroom facilities for their patrons.
Absolutely.
So you'll be,
Also,
will be
I
using the water.
appreciate your oil and grit separators at the driveway. Some people, it's like, well, what difference does that make? And if you wonder what difference it makes, go and look at the VIP parking lot. It's sloped toward the drainage, yay, that's the way it's supposed to be, except for people, if there's an auto parts place in there, they pull in when the radiators let it go, and when it's leaking oil, and go over and look at VIP, and just gushing out of the vehicles, and it all runs down into those
Yeah.
drains, which go right
Yeah.
in the river, and which have no oil and grit, or, yeah, oil and whatever separator.
Yeah, I see real problems on that side.
Well, so
well,
did
it's
the
a
guy.
very
but-
sensitive site. The drainage goes right into the swamp. That swamp feeds the Tioga Aquifer. I have
Yeah.
a
Perhaps the
water
board should
report.
deliberate this at the next hearing.
What is that? What?
Sorry, go ahead. I was saying, it might make sense to limit your discussion of this particular case until the next hearing.
Seeing as he's not
I
here.
was just gonna say, I have a underground water study that was done when they had the gas leak in Lockmere. And they studied, I can't remember the exact term, they studied all the movements of water through there. And there's a huge underground aquifer that moves through that Lockmere area that supplies the water for the Tioga Aquifer, which supplies the water for Tilton Northfield and Belmont.
And
So
that
we
sits in
can't-
the Aquifer
and in
Protection
general,
District,
when
which
we-
adds new and interesting requirements. And there's a big document regarding the Aquifer District, if you haven't gotten a copy.
Okay.
So I think wherever, not, it doesn't just pertain to this case, but whenever we're dealing with cases, it's like the people that came in for Packer Brook and the floor shop, we can't do too much to protect the waters because we haven't been. I'm saying it because I haven't done well.
All right. Anyone have anything else? I will entertain a motion to go home and go to bed.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Vote with your feet.
Opposed?
I love the planning board.
I just posted on something on Facebook, and it's something I've said forever, but this was put into words by some famous person other than me, that people